These are the only people who stayed with me. In the end, life advice for seniors and the elderly. Have you ever taken a moment to ask yourself, who will still be there when everything else has faded? As time goes by, people come and go. Some are with us only briefly, others slowly slip away as the years unfold. But as we grow older, one truth becomes clear. Not everyone is meant to stay until the very end. In today's video, we're going to explore 6 kinds of people who are most likely to stand by your side in your later years. These are the connections that truly last, the ones built on something deeper than convenience or obligation. Some might surprise you, while others will make you quietly remember who's always been there, even when no one else was. So I encourage you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because discovering who stays and why might just change the way you think about the relationships in your own life. As the years stretch on and the seasons of life quietly shift, we begin to notice something. Some relationships, no matter how bright they once were, simply don't last. Time has a way of thinning out the noise, the visitors, the well-wishers. But then, there's that one person who remains. Through it all, the partner who chose to stay. They've seen you in your youth and in your age, at your strongest and at your most vulnerable. They've witnessed the victories, the stumbles, the long silences when words were too heavy. And yet here they are, still reaching for your hand across the kitchen table, still knowing how you like your tea, still loving you not for what you do, but simply for who you are. In today's fast-changing world, where relationships are often fleeting and affection gets lost in distraction, this kind of bond is becoming rare. But its power? Timeless. Studies from Harvard Health show that individuals in supportive long-term relationships live, on average, 2 to 5 years longer than those without a close partner. And that's not just a sweet idea, it's biology. Emotional support reduces stress hormones like cortisol, stabilizes heart rate, strengthens the immune system, and even lowers the risk of cognitive decline. But a lasting relationship like this doesn't survive on routine alone. It endures because both people choose, again and again, to show up. Even when it's hard, even when the spark quiets into a soft glow, they don't stay out of duty. They stay because their life has been woven together with yours, thread by thread over decades. Think about the small moments that only you and your partner share. The gentle reminders, the morning coffee made just right, the quiet way they know when something's bothering you without needing you to say a word. These are not coincidences. They are the result of years spent choosing each other, listening, forgiving, and building a life not of perfection, but of presence. Of course, no relationship this deep comes without work. As we age, it becomes more important, not less, to nurture that connection. Start small. Ask how they slept. Take a walk together after dinner. Talk about memories, not just the big ones, but the silly forgotten ones that still make you laugh. Revisit the music you used to love. Relearn each other in this new chapter of life. Many people think that aging with a partner means slowly fading together, but in truth, it's a chance to fall in love again. This time not with the image of youth, but with the depth of history, with the knowledge that someone has seen every version of you and still chooses to stay. And if you don't have that kind of relationship in your life right now, don't lose heart. Sometimes it comes later. Sometimes it grows quietly from a place you didn't expect. And sometimes it starts with becoming that partner yourself, loving with intention, with patience, with presence. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Do you have someone in your life who's still walking this path with you, day by day, hand in hand? Or maybe you've been that steady presence for someone else. What's one small thing they do, or you do, that brings comfort in everyday life? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might just be the light someone else needs to hear. And if this moment spoke to your heart, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to Golden Wise Elders for more stories and insights made just for you, and consider sharing this with someone you care about, because love like this deserves to be seen, remembered, and celebrated. There's a special kind of comfort that doesn't come from blood ties or romantic love. It comes from someone who's simply been there, consistently, quietly, for years. A friend who has watched you grow, stumble, rise, and change, and never walked away. A lifelong friend. Unlike family, this friend didn't stay because they had to. And unlike a partner, their loyalty was never tied to a vow. They stayed because they chose to, over and over again. Through school days, career changes, raising children, retirement, and beyond. They were the voice on the other end of the line when your world felt too heavy. The one who showed up at your door, uninvited, but always welcome. The one who remembered the version of you that the rest of the world may have forgotten. There's something powerful about that kind of friendship in later life. According to the Mayo Clinic, Older adults who maintain close friendships are less likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, or cognitive decline. That's right. Having just one meaningful long-term friend can actually protect your brain and your emotional well-being. It's not just nice to have, it's essential. So what does this kind of friend look like? Often they're the one you don't need to explain yourself to. You may go months without talking, yet when you reconnect, the conversation picks up like no time has passed. They remember your stories, they understand your quirks. They don't need updates to know your heart. But friendships, especially in later years, can quietly slip away if we're not intentional. Life gets busy. Health gets in the way. Pride can sometimes hold us back from reaching out first. That's why it's so important to nurture these connections. Call them, even if it's been a while. Send a simple message. Share an old photo that made you think of them. Open your heart, even if your hands shake while dialing the number. It's never too late to reconnect, and it's never too soon to remind someone that their friendship has mattered, not just in the past, but still even now. Because in the end, when the noise of the world fades and the days grow quieter, one true friend can be louder than a crowd. Let me ask you this. Do you have a friend like that? Someone who's walked through the years with you, who still remembers your laugh from 30 years ago? Or is there someone you've been meaning to call but haven't quite found the moment? Take this as your sign. Reach out today. And if this reflection reminded you of someone special, share a bit about them in the comments below. Who knows? Your story might inspire someone else to pick up the phone. Life has a quiet way of circling back. Sometimes the people who show up for us in the end aren't the ones we expected, but the ones who remember what we once gave. A kind word, a ride home, a warm meal, a moment of listening when no one else would. These simple gestures given freely years ago often come back in the most surprising ways. You may not have thought much of it at the time. You weren't trying to earn loyalty or repay a favor. You were just being human, offering what you could when someone else was in need. But people remember kindness. Even when they don't say it out loud, it leaves a mark. And in your later years, when life slows down and your circle grows smaller, one of those people, someone you once helped, may quietly step back into your life, not out of duty, but out of gratitude. According to research in the field of social psychology, acts of kindness, especially during emotionally vulnerable times, form long-lasting emotional impressions. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson, a leading expert in positive psychology, explains that kindness triggers a reciprocal response, not out of obligation, but out of emotional memory. In simpler terms, when you help someone during a time they truly needed it, that memory stays with them, often for life. They might have been a neighbor going through a tough divorce, a young coworker unsure of their path, a relative struggling in silence. You were there. You gave them time, compassion, perhaps even hope. And now, without being asked, they find their way back to you, not because you expect it, but because they've never forgotten what you gave. This kind of connection is powerful, not just because it feels good, but because it's real. It reminds us that even the smallest gestures ripple far beyond the moment. But here's the key. Generosity must be given without conditions. Not every act of kindness will return, and that's okay. Because when it does, it's not just helpful, it's healing. If you want to invite this kind of return into your life, start by reflecting on how you show up for others today. Are there small ways you can offer help without being asked? Can you listen more patiently or reach out to someone who might be going through a silent struggle? Not every seed blooms right away, but those planted in love often bloom when you least expect it. Sometimes just when you need them most. Now take a moment and ask yourself, have you ever had someone come back into your life out of the blue just to say thank you? Or is there someone you once helped that still lingers in your thoughts? If so, share that memory in the comments below. Your story might remind someone else that kindness is never wasted. Family. It's a word that carries so much weight, and yet as we grow older, we begin to understand that not all family ties are created equal. Some relatives are present in name only. They show up for the holidays, maybe call once in a while, send a card with a few lines written in a rush, and then there are others, the rare few, who stay close, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely care. They make time, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's not. These are the family members who ask how you're really doing and wait to hear the answer. They don't flinch when the conversation turns to health concerns, finances, or feelings of loneliness. They don't try to change the subject or brush things aside. Instead, they lean in, they listen, they stay. And in the later chapters of life, their presence is more than just comforting. It's vital. According to the National Institute on Aging, older adults who maintain regular contact with emotionally supportive family members are at lower risk of depression, chronic illness, and cognitive decline. Strong family bonds don't just make us feel better, they actually help us live longer, healthier lives. But here's the truth. These relationships don't happen by accident. They require mutual care, forgiveness, and effort. Even the most loving family members can drift apart if no one reaches out. That's why staying connected on both sides is so important. If you have someone in your family who shows up consistently, who takes the time to be present, cherish that bond. Let them know their care doesn't go unnoticed. A simple thank you can deepen a relationship more than you realize. And if there's distance or tension in your family, don't assume it's too late. Sometimes healing begins with a single message, a single moment of vulnerability, a handwritten note, a phone call, an honest "I miss you." Because family isn't just about who shares your blood. It's about who shares your life, your struggles, your joys. It's about who remembers not just your birthday, but the sound of your laugh, the look in your eyes when something's wrong, the way you like your soup on cold days. I'd like to ask you now, is there someone in your family who stood by you without fail? Someone whose presence still brings warmth to your heart? Or perhaps, is there someone in your family you've been thinking about but haven't reached out to yet? Share your thoughts below. Whether it's gratitude, regret, or reflection, your story may help someone else mend a bond or appreciate one they already have. If this message has touched something inside you, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Golden Wise Elders, and share it with someone you love. Because in the end, it's not how many family members you have, it's about the few who stay close and truly care. Sometimes the person who stays by your side in the end isn't the one you grew up with, or even someone you've known for very long. In fact, they may have entered your life only recently, quietly, unexpectedly, but with a presence that feels just as meaningful as any lifelong bond. It might be a neighbor who started checking in after noticing your porch light stayed off too many nights in a row, or a caregiver, someone who was hired at first, but slowly became a true companion. Perhaps it's the young man who bags your groceries and now takes an extra minute just to ask how your day's going, or the nurse who remembers your favorite blanket, or the church volunteer who started sitting next to you during Sunday service because you once reminded her of her grandmother. These connections might not come with a family name or decades of shared history, but their value is no less real. Sociologists have found that in older adults, consistent interaction with even weak ties, people you see often but aren't closely bonded with, can significantly reduce feelings of isolation and improve mood and mental resilience. These so-called unexpected companions remind us that support doesn't always have to come from traditional relationships. Sometimes love shows up in places you never thought to look. What makes these people special is their choice. They're not required to be in your life. There's no family tree or shared past tying you together. But still, they stay. They show up with meals when you're not feeling well. They sit with you, even when there's nothing to say. They offer help not because they have to, but because they want to. In many ways, their kindness feels even more profound, precisely because it's not expected. And over time, they become part of your routine, your comfort, your story. These small, consistent acts of care grow into something lasting, a reminder that it's never too late to form a new connection that matters. So don't overlook the quiet people in your orbit, the neighbor who waves every morning, the delivery driver who always waits until you've safely picked up your package, the nurse's aide who remembers which music calms your nerves. Connection doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it slips in through the back door and settles gently into your heart. Take a moment now to reflect. Has someone in your life surprised you with their kindness, someone you didn't expect, but whose presence has become a source of comfort? Or are you that person for someone else? We'd love to hear your story. Leave a comment below and tell us about a connection you never saw coming, but now couldn't imagine being without. As life unfolds into its later chapters, we sometimes find ourselves facing a quiet shift. Old friendships may fade. Family may live far away. Longtime partners may no longer be here. It's in these moments of stillness, sometimes even loneliness, that a new kind of relationship begins to bloom. One born not from the past, but from shared present circumstances. You meet someone at the community center. You sit next to them during a senior yoga class. You strike up a conversation with the person walking the same path as you each morning in the park. And over time, without either of you realizing it, that stranger becomes a companion. Not because of shared memories, but because of shared reality. This is the beauty of connecting with someone who truly understands what you're going through right now. Maybe they've also lost a spouse. Maybe their children live states away. Maybe they too are learning to navigate the slow pace of retirement, the long afternoons, the quiet evenings. There's comfort in knowing you're not alone in what you're feeling. According to a study by the American Psychological Association, older adults who actively participate in group activities, be it a club, a class, or a religious gathering, report higher life satisfaction, reduced anxiety, and even better sleep. These interactions don't just fill time, they fill the soul. And perhaps what's most encouraging is this: you don't need to be the most outgoing person in the room to make a new friend. All it takes is a smile, a comment about the weather, a shared laugh over something simple. These small openings lead to conversations. Conversations lead to companionship, and companionship leads to healing. We often think of deep connection as something that takes decades to build. But when you share life circumstances, grief, change, hope, uncertainty, those bonds can grow much faster than you expect. In fact, many people in senior communities say their strongest friendships were formed after the age of 65. So don't underestimate the power of showing up. Join a book club, sign up for a walking group, attend a local event, volunteer. The opportunities are there, quietly waiting for you. You might be surprised at who you meet and how deeply you connect. Let me ask you, is there someone in your life right now, a new friend, a neighbor, a fellow member at church, who seems to understand where you're at, even without saying much? Or are you considering stepping into a new space, but still feeling unsure? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your story might give someone else the courage to take that first step. And if this message encouraged you, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might be searching for meaningful connection in this chapter of life. Because sometimes the people we meet later in life are the ones who walk with us until the very end. Not because they've known our past, but because they walk beside us in the present and choose to stay. As we come to the end of this reflection, I invite you to take a quiet moment and think about the people who have walked with you. Not just through your happiest days, but through your hardest hours. Who are the ones who stayed? Maybe it's a partner who stood beside you for decades, through changes, through storms, through silence. Maybe it's a friend who's known you since your youth, who still sees the same spark in your eyes, no matter your age. Perhaps it's someone you once helped long ago, who's now returning the favor in ways you never expected. Or a family member, not all of them, but that one who calls on ordinary Tuesdays and stays long enough to ask how you really feel. It could be the neighbor who noticed you before you noticed yourself, or the caregiver who turned from stranger to companion. Or maybe, just maybe, it's someone new, a fellow traveler in this stage of life, who understands not your past, but your present, and walks beside you anyway. These are the people who matter, not because they were always there, but because they chose to stay when others faded. They are the ones who see you, not as an aging person, but as a whole story, rich with chapters, marked with meaning. And as life narrows and time becomes more precious, these relationships take on a deeper kind of beauty. Not loud, not flashy, but steady, present, real. If you're watching this and feeling a little more seen, a little more understood, I'm grateful you're here. You are not alone. Whether you have many around you or only a few, whether the ones who stayed are near or remembered from afar, know this: your life has touched others, and it still does. Now I'd love to know, which of these 6 people do you recognize in your own life? Or maybe, are you one of them, choosing to stay for someone else? Share your story with us in the comments. You never know who your words might comfort or who might recognize themselves in what you say. If this video spoke to your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to Golden Wise Elders, and consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. We're building a place for stories that honor the strength, softness, and wisdom of growing older. And your presence here is part of that. Thank you for spending this time with me. And until we meet again, take care of yourself and take care of the ones who stay.